Hello, I'm Flora. I'm a 2D artist learning 3D modeling and printing. In this video, I'll be creating holiday ornaments. I saw these at the dollar store and I immediately thought, I have to create something to put inside of these. These are great because they open right up from the middle, which means that I can put in a figure that is as tall and as wide as the diameter of this sphere. So let's design 3 different objects to go inside of these ornament balls. And this time, I'm going to be using my Bambu A1 Mini printer. I like to compare the filament printing process to the resin printing process because I'm quite exhausted from all the post-processing I had to do with my last resin printed project and wanted to see if those were some steps that I could skip over when I'm using an FDM printer. I love the results that the 3D printer can produce. However, the printing process itself is not very fun to me. So if I can find an easier, more convenient, faster, and cleaner way to do my 3D prints, that would be an ideal scenario. Before opening Blender, I wanted to get my ideas down, so I turned to a more advanced and comfortable skill set of mine, which is drawing. Drawing is a great way to get my ideas down quickly, as I can kind of just play around and not have to filter my ideas as much. I don't have to worry about technical things like, is this doable? I just focus on the idea itself and brainstorming as many as I could. At this stage, it's just pure fun, as I can put down anything that pops into my mind. My first idea was a gingerbread house because I feel like gingerbread houses really encapsulate the cozy vibes of the holiday season. I've also never had a gingerbread house that I thought tasted good before, so this is going to be a reminder for me next year to attempt homemade gingerbread and make a gingerbread house that I'll actually enjoy eating. I tried to keep in mind some of the technical issues I would run into during 3D modeling, but at the same time, the purpose of this stage is to find something that I'm happy with. My second idea was a Christmas tree. I know, it's not the most original, a Christmas tree ornament to go on a Christmas tree. However, I did want to give it a try because a Christmas tree is pretty difficult to model, and I had to accept that what I ended up making is probably look nothing like a Christmas tree. It's going to be a very, very simplified version. I had fun drawing this by trying out different gestures to give the tree a bit more movement and character. Now populate it with a few GIFs and we're ready to go. My third idea was a snowflake. I thought this one would be the easiest because I thought snowflakes were simple. However, I kept overcomplicating the designs and adding way too much into it. I didn't end up liking any of what I drew, so I decided to go with something a lot more simple in the end. This was a reminder of how poor my design skills are and how I'm still learning so much about design along with learning about 3D modeling and printing. Okay, so I've got 3 designs that I'm fairly happy with that I think I should be able to turn into 3D models, so let's get modeling. As usual, modeling took way longer than I thought it would. I feel like the drawing part is the fun, creative part, and the 3D modeling part is more problem solving all the technical issues with my 2D drawing. I put the 2D drawings up on the side just to keep as reference, but I didn't limit myself or force myself to stick to it too closely because getting an exact result wasn't the goal. The goal is to make sure that my figure is printable. The snowflake apparently wasn't flat, even though I tried super hard to keep it very flat in Blender for the purpose of 3D printing, but somehow it didn't stay that way. So I had to go back and scale the Z-axis to 0, and that way at least one side was completely flat against the print bed. I still wanted to print the original one that got the problem error message because I was curious and wanted to see how it would print, if it would print, just for funsies. Okay, the snowflake that received the problem error message is already starting to peel off on the edges. I'm surprised that it's continuing to print though, that's quite impressive. So the good news is I don't have to wash these in alcohol and then cure them. The bad news is I still have to remove all of these supports, and there are many. So this one here, I think it looks pretty good. I'm pretty excited about this one because I can see a lot of the details that I had put in do seem visible. So I'm quite pleased with that. These two, this one is clearly superior. Pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm surprised this one even printed at all. You can tell that it just has a lot of problems from lifting and not being flat against the plate. This is the tree. This is a bit of a mess, but we're gonna remove the supports one by one and try to get something usable out of this. Let's see how it goes. Okay, I'm not really enjoying this. It's taking a really long time, and even if I succeed, I foresee a lot of sanding to be necessary. So I'm thinking maybe let's try reprinting it, but with support interface this time. On my printer, I currently have two filaments installed. One is the regular PLA material, and the second one is a support filament. The way that the support filament works is that a very thin layer is inserted between where the support touches the object. Because the material is different, this enables me to remove the supports easily from the object after it's printed. The second print was so much easier to remove. It pretty much just snapped right off, both for the gingerbread house and for the Christmas tree. It took about 10 hours to print, which is 7 hours longer than the first print, but it's worth it, right? I'm still not sure, because one thing that I didn't predict is that the printer would produce a lot of printer poop. And it also made this tower. So every time the printer needed to switch to the support interface, it would need to purge out all the PLA filament, then purge out some more of the support filament before it could start using it. And then it would do this over and again until the print was finished. This is why it took 10 hours and created such a ton of poop. The tower, I guess, was for helping the filament transition between the two so that there was no residual filament left in the nozzle when it switched to the new one. Given that there was all of this waste created just from printing those two objects, I'm not entirely sure it was worth it. Although it did make support removal so much easier, I do wonder in the future if I'm going to opt for it again. But for this time, I'm happy that I tested it, I'm happy with how the print turned out, and now we can move on to painting. I didn't realize how difficult this would be to paint until I was doing it. I had printed all of the elements together instead of separately, and that made my life very difficult. So why did I not print it separately? Well, the answer is because the base that I put the objects on was not flat. I wanted to create a nice organic looking surface like it was a ground covered with snow, so I added some bumps on the 3D model to give it that nice flow. However, this means that all of the objects that sit on top of it are not going to be flush against a flat surface. So to ensure that all of these objects could adhere properly to the base, I just printed them all together. I decided to keep the icing parts of the gingerbread house white and not paint over it. So I had to ensure that whatever color I was putting on top did not transfer over to the white parts. This was very hard. I didn't find that this was the best paint job, but I am still a beginner. I really wish I wasn't a beginner at least one of the steps involved in this process, but this is where I am in terms of my skill set, and this is the project I chose to make. The Christmas tree was both easier and more difficult to paint. It was easier because it was simpler and had fewer small details, but it was more difficult because, again, the tree trunk and the tree are attached to the base, and it was really hard for me to reach. So I really wish I had printed these two objects separately, the tree and the base, but I didn't really want to do another 10-hour print, so I decided to just suck it up and try my best. Since the tree was mostly green, I wanted to give the presents underneath it a bit more color. Of course, there was some bleed through where some of the color from the presents bled onto the white surface, so I just went over it and brushed some white paint over those areas. Okay, so here they are, the gingerbread house and the Christmas tree painted. For the snowflake, I decided to just keep it white. I tried adding some sparkles on it, but I didn't really like how that looked. So I decided to just go all in and cover it entirely with glitter. This looks much better. I'm pretty happy with how these turned out actually. And now I'm excited to hang them on the tree. Let's go. I had a really fun time making these ornaments. For what I wanted to achieve, the A1 Mini filament printer did a great job, and I'm glad to have learned the pros and cons of support interface. Compared to resin printing, I think I prefer this process a lot more, but I also do really like the smooth finish and crazy detail of a resin print. Perhaps how I choose between the two printers in the future will depend on what my project entails. Thank you for watching me complete this project. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful holiday, and I'll see you in the next one.